ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 1, Episode 11, Boomtown. Or Boom City, technically, because it's Cardiff, and Cardiff's the city, so it should be Boom City, but then again, there are lots of people who go, oh, good old London town, when referring to London, when it's a city. It's the capital city of the entire UK, and Cardiff is the capital of Wales, so, yeah. Anyway, so moving from those, okay, the plot is that the Doctor, Rose and Captain Jack arrive in Cardiff so that they can fill the TARDIS up with fuel from the rift, as seen in the events of The Unquiet Dead. So they're there for 24 hours. Mickey joins them because Rose asked him to bring her her passport, which she technically doesn't need, and she kind of admits this later on. I suppose, and I guess the four of them just hang out for a bit, and then they discover that Blondfell Fetch Slitheen, aka Margaret Blaine, is the new mayor of Cardiff. Somehow a member of MI5 became mayor of Cardiff. Okay, I'll suspend my suspension of disbelief. In fact, there's some really great scenes with Margaret Blaine / Blondfell Fletch. The pre-title scene is pretty cool. Following a 6 months after the events of Aliens of London World War III. After previously, we see Mrs. Blaine, Margaret Blaine, talking with Mr. Cleaver about something. Mr. Cleaver is an advisor from the government about it. And of course, the Slitheen would kill him shortly afterwards. There's actually some funny lines about how he supposedly died later on to a journalist. He slipped on an icy patch. It was decapitated. It was a very icy patch. And yes, I can't do Welsh accents very well. In fact, I wasn't even trying. Anyway, the Doctor and gang catch Margaret, and they find out about some of the original plan to escape the world using an extrapolator to surf off a blown up Cardiff. With the nuclear power station, as it was intended to go wrong, because so Margaret could escape off world. Yeah, it's a very strange way to travel. Then again, her teleport probably only teleported her to the nearest location on the planet, as they talk about. Anyway, they have her captive and they're going to take her home, although she does reveal that you know what, I'll let the Doctor explain it. Never mind. Raxifalapatorius. No, I'm not going to bother saying it, it's too difficult. I'll put it down in text. I think the only person who can actually say it is Christopher Eccleston. Well, some of the others, but it probably takes a lot of practice. Anyway, so the home planet of the Slitheen, the twin planet to Clom, we'll find out about Clom in the next series, has the death penalty, and therefore the family Slitheen have been trying their absence, and yeah, it's a pretty gruesome description of the death. But the Doctor and co are determined just to take her back and just leave her there, I suppose. So what happens is Margaret goes on a dinner date with the Doctor, and it's that's quite funny, as her last request. Whilst Rose and Mickey go out for a bit, I think there may be some potential sexual undertones hinted, potentially. Whilst Jack plays with the TARDIS. Ooh, he's looking inside the TARDIS. Wink, wink. Anyway, on the dinner date, Margaret attempts to kill the Doctor, just as Jack predicted that she would try to kill him and run away. But they've got the handcuff things, which means all of this is pointless, because otherwise Margaret would be dragging a dead body back to the TARDIS. Or anywhere, to be honest. So this is all quite silly. I mean, maybe she's just showing off the stuff to the Doctor, her poison in her ring, or whatever it does, the poisoned finger, and the poisonous air from the lungs. That's better. Oh, those some funny bits. And then when she gives up and just eats. Just eat some food. In fact, there's some really great lines from the Ninth Doctor as well. Christopher Eccleston is just amazing, as usual. But yeah, he can really do like I said in previous reviews, he can do the humorous, fun side just as well. He can do as well as he can do the bad, dark, just as well as he can do the dark and serious side of the Doctor. These dinner scenes are a good blend of both of those, where he's quite fun, happy, cheerful, go-lucky, as Margaret puts it. But when the talk gets a bit more serious, you can see his more serious face and be a bit more stern. So these are actually quite enjoyable scenes. But, of course, something has to go wrong. And Jack somehow causes the rift to open. And it turns out that the extrapolator, would, if it was able to find a power source, would open the rift in order to take Margaret off-world. And that was all part of her. That was her backup plan, basically. So all of this stuff in the cafe about her wanting redemption, because that's pretty much what they're talking about after Margaret tries to kill the Doctor, is they're talking about her home and her redemption and how she spared the journalist earlier. She's talking about wanting forgiveness, redemption, a second chance, and it all turned out to be fake. It all turned out to be a lie. If this wasn't bad enough, the Mickey and Rose scenes, God, these could be some of the worst scenes of the entire series so far. Rose is basically talking to Mickey about their travels, and Mickey admits that he's now dating another girl, and then Rose gets all jealous and upset about it. And at the same time, Mickey gets all upset about Rose leaving him and going travelling in the first place. Yeah, these are some of the least enjoyable. Yeah, these are probably the weakest scenes of the entire series so far. Not for the emotional fact, but just because of the context. And Rose, you've been trying to hook up with every guy since you've met the Doctor. You've been trying to hook up with Adam. You've been trying to hook up with Jack. You've even sort of tried to hook up with the Doctor. Yet you've still got a boyfriend, sort of, I suppose. Not anymore. I guess this is the official breakup. If there wasn't one already. And yet, when Mickey mentions that he's now seeing somebody else, you get jealous. This is the companion everybody loves? I mean, if it was earlier on in the series, I can understand it. But by episode 11, we should have some character growth. No, this is kind of her worst moment today. And it gets worse in episode 13, which is a shame, because that's the best episode. Oh, God, what is going on with this character? She's supposed to be getting better over the course of the series, not worse. And she was getting better in some episodes, and now we've sunk this low again. I can totally see why people consider her a cow or a bitch for scenes like this. I can completely see. And, in fact, I think, yeah, this is probably the worst episode for Rose and Mickey in the entire series as characters. Well, flipping done. And this episode doesn't really help Mickey either, as it makes him a bit of a selfish whiner as well. So neither of these two characters are particularly good in this story, or at least not from the halfway point. They're not really that great in the first half anyway. So honestly, the better stuff is with the Doctor and Margaret Blaine, because they're the better scenes of the story. And even Captain Jack, with his silent moments in the TARDIS playing with the extrapolator, they're better just because he's not talking about anything stupid, or his character. His character's actually slightly better here than it was in the last two episodes, which helps with his character growth. He had 5 episodes, and he already, by his third, he's a better character than Rose and or Mickey at this point. Well done. Well, technically this is Mickey's 4th episode, but you know what I mean. So I think that's where the episode falls very flat on those two characters. Not to mention the ending is very in your face. What is going on? It's just so that we can end the episode on a bang. And so we've got the Margaret Sabine revealing that all this begging for forgiveness and redemption and having another chance was an act, and attempts to kill Rose if the Doctor and Jack don't let her go away. On the surfboard. However, the TARDIS decides to give Margaret a second chance anyway, at the same time saving the city by opening the heart of the TARDIS out. Well, it has been established before that the TARDIS is alive. It's more than just a machine, as hinted in An Earthly Child and the 5 Doctors, as well as countless other stories, presumably. And here we see that the TARDIS has a heart. So it's not. And we see the TARDIS has a heart here, which is a nice addition. And like I said, turns Margaret into an egg, and the Doctor, Rose, and Jack are able to stop the rift. And then they take the egg back to Raxphalapotoris, whatever. Rose does go to look for Mickey, but of course he's pissed off after the events of earlier on. And Rose does realise he kind of deserves better. Now, you would think this is the wake-up point for Rose. You would think this is where she finally realises and decides to change her ways. Well, Mickey's new girlfriend is never mentioned again, and her attitude doesn't really change by episode 13 when they next meet. So, what was the point? If she's not going to change, then what was the point? Unbelievable. Okay, Boomtown. Story's kind of all over the place. We've got a really fun first half, but it is basically a comical farce. In the second half, whilst it adds some more seriousness into it, the climax is just... It's enjoyable to watch, but on a story point of view, not very good. Not to mention Rose and Mickey's... their character arcs fall completely flat on their faces, and Margaret Slevine's character, it sounded like it was nice having Slevine trying to plead for their own life, try to beg the Doctor to spare them, give them another chance. It would have been quite an interesting story to have this story try to... It would have been interesting to see a villain try to have a redemption in this story, but no, because we had to have a big epic finale. Well, I might say big epic finale, big epic climax, or big bombastic climax. It was all trickery, which meant she doesn't really deserve that. Deserve to be given another chance at the end by the TARDIS. I guess the TARDIS was just feeling generous at that time. It was probably thinking, "Oh, this isn't feeling very good. Look, I'll give you another chance, and then we'll be able to stop this thing. Okay, here we go. Here, done. Okay, stop this. Thank you." Maybe the TARDIS, it was either feeling kind, or it was just like, right, here you go, now stop this. So yeah, the best thing of this story is, of course, Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, and also Annette Bening as Margaret Blaine, aka Blonde Fell Foch Slevine. They got some really good moments, and you can actually feel some emotion for the Slevine when it's on the toilet. Actually, when it's talking to Kathy, the journalist, although she doesn't know it's the Slevine, she still thinks it's Margaret. And also in the restaurant scenes, they're really great scenes as well. Of course, it is definitely completely Margaret in all those scenes. And John Barrowman is Captain Jack. He's definitely Captain Jack. He's now a great character. Yeah, you could have kind of been a bit on left and right with him, on up and down, hot or cold with him in the last two episodes. But I think he was still a pretty cool character there. And now he's a really great character. So I'm looking forward to how they complete his journey in the next story. And John Barrowman, he just does a really great job, and he's really fun. And I think a little bit of travelling with the Doctor and Rose has done him good already by his next episode. See, Adam Mitchell, this is how you are a good companion. Sadly, Boomtown, overall, I mean, it's enjoyable, it's fun, but it's definitely filler. It's there to fill up time between episodes 10 and 12. Sort of also sets up the series finale, just like the Long Game. I think Long Game could be also considered filler as well, but I think this one's even more filler. I know a lot of people love this story, or at least enjoy it a lot, so that's fair enough. I know where you're coming from, but I have to say the story just isn't that good, and kind of falls flat on its face. And sadly, I think this could be the weakest episode of the series from a script point of view. So I was going to give this story a 6 out of 10, but I think I'm going to have to lower it to a 5, actually. So I'm going to give Boomtown a 5 out of 10. Yeah, it's just not that great of a story. It's enjoyable, it's still really fun, but not so great. I do like how there's not that many visual effects before the climax. I think it's done really well of being a low budget story without the need of much visual effects. It's really nice, and it's nicely shot, and Cardiff looks really beautiful. So that's pretty cool. It probably was the budget saving episode, but at the same time it still looks really good on a more practical based story as opposed to having so many visual effects. It only needs a few, such as the climax. Okay, those were probably where they all mostly went. Anyway, so that's it from me. Next time we'll be taking a look at the god-awesome epic finale. That is Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. And we see... And after... Okay, anyway, but... Oh, for God's sake, know what you're trying to say. Bastard. Now there are definitely some sexual undertone. I'm joking on that last bit. Now there are some. Ooh, he's looking under. Ooh, he's looking inside the TARDIS. Wink, wink. Ooh, he's looking inside the... Ooh. But when Jack activates the vortex, manipulate, not... So that's what they're pretty much talking about for the second lot of Dynasty. And it was supposed to have character growth by the end of episode 1. And she was getting better for a point in time. Then she kind of didn't really do much in Long Game and The Empty Child 2-parter. Well, I can completely see. Bless you. And the episode also makes Mickey like a whining prick. Well, this is technically Mickey's 4th story, but he had such great character development in the 4th and 5th. Well, technically this is Mickey's 4th story, but... And as hinted in An Unearthly Child, and... So I'm looking forward to seeing how... So I'm looking forward to him in the next story. See, Adam Mitchell, this is how you... See, Adam Mitchell, this is what it... I do like how it's not as much, there's not as much visual effects needed, or at least not until the climax, but I do like how there's